Carolyn laughed. Welcome, everybody. I'm Rudy Nickens. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Deaconess Foundation. I'm so happy that you have joined us in our meeting. Welcome. Your relationship with us, your care and concern for us, your support of us, and ours mutual for you is really important. So thank you for sharing this. We have several updates to do today. We get to welcome our new CEO publicly for the first time and thank her for accepting the position and watching where we go from here. And with all Deaconess Foundation activities, we try to begin with some moment of devotion. So I get to lead us through a brief moment of devotion as we kick off this meeting. I've been, like probably many of you, I've been paying a lot of attention to what's happening in Glasgow right now and the climate talks and the role that the U.S. is re-entering into the conversation, and that means all of us re-entering into the conversation in a new and higher way. And as we have said in this organization many times, that one of the greatest existential threats of our lifetime is climate change and what's happening to the earth. And like many other disasters, created or natural, the worst and first damage always impacts people of the global majority. Places where we live on the planet, places that we live in our city, our institutions are always, the climate damage is worse and has a greater horrible impact on Black and Brown lives, bodies, and grounds around the world. So for that, I thought I wanted to start this devotion with a chance to center us around a little bit of acknowledging our earth. Like probably some others of you, people like me who were separated from any kind of relationship with ground for a long time. I can't recall any agrarian stories in my family. I did not grow up growing food or playing in soil or learning about the harvest or the water. It was something that was not readily accessible to me. I'm a kid from the projects. We didn't do that kind of world. So figuring out how to remember and honor and celebrate the earth and all that it brings and our relationship to it, we are intimately and intricately connected to this planet. So I wanted to just have a few words to both acknowledge the land upon which we sit, to be grateful and appreciative of the First Nations whose land everything that we touch is a part of. And I offer these few words of Thanksgiving. I have a Thanksgiving address from a Haudenosaunee nation. Greetings to the natural world. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the day to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one as we give greetings to thank each other as people. And now our minds can be one. We are thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy so that as she continues to care for us, as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms: waterfalls and rain, mist and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the spirit of water. Now we turn the vast fields of the plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. They sustain many life forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries has helped the people survive. Many other living things draw strength from them too. we gather at all the plant foods together and send them a greeting of thanks. And we'll turn to the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always wanting and ready to heal us. We are happy they are still among us and those special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and to the keepers of the medicine. We have now arrived at a place where we end our words just because of time. Of all the things we have named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each other, to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in our own way. Now may our minds be one as we honor our earth. Thank you. I pray that our leaders who are representing our nation at the climate talks in Glasgow right now feel our spirits and our connection and our support and our wish and our hopes that we do everything we can to minimize the impact of global warming and the lives that it is costing, particularly as we center climate justice and racism as an intricately connected series of oppressions. So welcome, and I thank you for being here. Before we ask for your support of the consent agenda, I just want to say while we're here, welcome everyone, and particularly welcome Bethany Johnson-Javois, our new CEO. Yay, Bethany, thank you. I can't wait to hear your words later on today, and more important, to follow your leadership as we move forward over the next period of time. For the world, Bethany is the new CEO, the third person in the history of the Deaconess Foundation to have this seat, the first female person to have this seat, and it looks like we're doing our part to maintain our commitment to this being a women-led world, as right it should be, and consistently as we celebrate the Mother Earth. And finally, I want to also, I know that Bethany will, but I also want to say on behalf of the board, thank you to Cheryl Walker for your incredible work and leadership over the last 12 months to keep the foundation moving forward in a thoughtful and deep way. I have learned to I've always appreciated you, but I have seen more and more in this relationship with you, your wisdom, your attention to detail. You leave nothing to wonder about that it hasn't been checked. I know that this board really has really benefited so much from, and the staff and the community, so much from the skill set that you bring. And I hope it has been for you as good an experience as it has been for us to have you in this role. So as we transition from one superwoman to another superwoman, we want to say thanks to you as well. The first item is to ask for approval of the consent agenda. I hope everyone on the board got a chance to receive your board packet in advance, and if I would ask if there's a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Caroline has moved.
Second.
And I didn't see whose face that was.
It's Carissa.
Hi, Carissa, welcome.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed or abstaining, same sign. Great, welcome. Okay, it's I have a couple of things that I want to say in my report. Transitions and periods of change bring with it a unique set of challenges and a unique set of opportunities. So normally at this time of year, this is the meeting at which we elect new board members and new officers. As you know, we have a couple of vacancies because a board member took another position in another state. Another one of our beloved board members lost his life this year. We had another board member just transition for time commitment. So we've got a few openings on our board that need to be filled eventually, but not hurriedly. So instead of having a brand new slate of members and officers presented at this meeting, this joint meeting with the board of the foundation and the board of trustees, I'm going to be excited that once again our CEO interim person, Cheryl, who knows everything about everything, including bylaws and laws, has presented us with a way to make a thoughtful transition into the new year. So among the things that we get to do, I get to utilize a provision that the bylaws provides that there's not an election at this annual meeting. Directors whose terms were to expire may continue in their positions until their replacements are named, and that the following directors will continue in office pursuant to that division. So I'm asking that Vanessa Cooksey, Elizabeth Beth Noonan, and the Reverend Norma Patterson continue, even though their terms were scheduled to expire this month, this end of this calendar year, that they remain in their seats, and that we will do everything we can as a board with our new CEO to explore thoughtful and good potential board members and not, well, I was going to say not make you stay in your roles forever, but maybe, but I'm just kidding, but appreciative of your willingness to continue serving. Likewise, the officers of the board, the chair of the audit committee, and the chair of the racial equity task force to continue playing those roles. So myself as chair, with Carolyn Battles, Caroline, I didn't have a conversation with you, so I'm just going to say, if you oppose this agreement to continue as racial equity task force chair, I apologize, but I'm putting your name out there anyway. Same with you, Tammy, to lead the audit committee, and Beth as corporate secretary, and Vanessa as continue as the vice chair, so that the officers of the board, the CEO, and the member at large make up the executive committee, and the executive committee members for 22 will be myself as chair, Vanessa Cooksey as vice chair, Beth Noonan, Tammy Kriebel, Caroline Battles, and Bethany Johnson-Jaffa. So that is my request. That is my recommendation. Thanks, Vanessa, for your thumbs up. That is my request that we move forward with this way, and know that probably in the first quarter of calendar year 2022, at our retreat, and our annual meeting retreat, we will come forward with new plans and directions and clear agenda on how we proceed with the newest members. And I ask everyone to be engaged with helping myself and helping Bethany to tap into your networks of people that you think would be really good folks to invite to serve on this board as well. The demographics, the representation, the footprint, the values, and what it takes to serve on these boards. So I ask your help in helping and doing that. And that ends my report. Cheryl, does that require a vote? I don't remember.
No, it does not require a vote. Thank you.
Great. All right. Great. Thank you. And next on the agenda is financial report. So Matt Oldani.
Thanks, Rudy. This is always one of my favorite points of the year, is I get to talk about the budget. I guess that makes me kind of a finance geek, which I'm proud to describe myself as such. So in the meeting materials, you'll see the budget materials, and then Alexis will put up a quick summary of the financial report. We rely primarily for revenue from our investment portfolio. Thank you, Tammy. So we use a 28-quarter rolling average to determine the amount of spend every year. So in this particular time, we have about $50 million in our investment portfolio on a 28-quarter rolling average. That includes two of the lowest quarters that we've had, both from when the pandemic hit, 18 months ago, and when the market fell even 2 years ago, to the strength of the market over the last 12 months or so. It levels itself out. That way we can be more consistent from a spending standpoint from year to year. But in addition to our investment portfolio, we also have grants and contributions. We also have miscellaneous revenue from odds and ends, contributions and community members who support our efforts. And then one thing that we're doing differently this year with the advice of both our auditors and our accountants, the beauty of having new accountants in the last 18 months and the beauty of having new auditors is they apply fresh eyes. And one of the things they have suggested is aligning our budget with the actual audit report. And again, this may be a little too technical and a little geeky for some, but every year in the financial statements, we release dollars from donor restrictions. And those are dollars that we have already booked as a revenue or that we have been given to us for specific purposes. And in this instance, over the last couple of years, we've booked more than $1 million for the Racial Healing and Justice Fund. So we booked that in 2019 and 2020, but we are actually spending it in 2021, 2022. And so we are releasing those funds from donor restrictions, totals of about 1.3 million. That also includes our nursing scholarship dollars, as well as dollars for senior services and so forth. So we have total revenue of about $5.5 million. In the program expenses, we are spending $4.1 million. That includes not only our grant making dollars, but also our dollars that we are granting out to the community in terms of space at the Deaconess Center for Child Wellbeing, as well as a lot of the non-grant support that we provide our partners, whether that be trainings or whether that be assistance with a particular effort, or we're either paying for a consultant as part of our anchor program and anchor institutions. And then down beneath that, we have management and operations of $1.3 million. That includes personnel, public relations, accounting, all the administrative services, but as well as it also covers rent. We actually lease space at the Deaconess Center from Child Wellbeing. The foundation does. That's the $1.3 million. And then we have $650 that we have an annuitant that we have to pay on an annual basis. We have total expenses of about $5.4 million, which we anticipate a surplus of about $28,000 in 2022. Just a couple things I want to note. Our spending policy provides a minimum of a distribution of 5% for programs. We are at 5.56, not including the dollars pulled from the donor restricted funds, and then 2% for programs and admin. We're at 2.67. A good chunk of that 2.67 is made up of additional staff, new platforms for technology and accounting and so forth. And we also offset that with the additional revenue that you see at the top, the other revenue and grants and contributions and so forth. Okay, are there any questions?
Hearing none.
Rudy, then I think we need a motion to approve the 2022 budget.
Yes, this is an action item. So is there a motion to approve the 2022 budget as presented?
Rudy, this is Tammy Kriebel, and also move.
Thank you, Tammy. Is there a second? Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Dale. Any discussion or questions? Then I will call the vote. All in favor of approving the 2022 foundation budget as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed and or abstaining, same sign. Great, we have approved the budget. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you, team. Next, we have funding recommendations from Keisha Davis.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We wanted to take a moment to share grant making updates for activity that has occurred since the last program update to the full board in August. Since then, we've made grants in our responsive grant and leadership grant portfolios and released a call for new mission-related investments. I'll start with recommendations regarding mission-related investments. As noted in your board packet, a call was released in the fall for new partnerships through our mission-related investment opportunity. You may recall in 2016, the board committed up to 2% of the foundation's investment portfolio value to mission-related investments, yielding up to $1 million in community investment. It's worth noting that we were slated to release the opportunity in 2020, but extended repayment timeline for existing partners by 6 months, which delayed the availability of capital for a new MRI opportunity. Historically, Deaconess has prioritized investments in alignment with common principles from the field, including prospective partners with a demonstrated need for a capital investment versus a grant or a forgivable loan, alignment with the foundation's charitable interests and values, diversity in leadership, governance, and stakeholders engaged, an identified source of income or asset base for repaying the loan, a reasonable business plan with an assessment of the viability of the proposed program or project, and evidence of social returns on investment. For this current call, 2 requests were received totaling $360,000 of the $600,000 that was made available. A detailed summary of each request and applicant is noted within your packet. Upon review of the submissions, it is clear that current applicants lack the readiness for this type of investment partnership, demonstrating limited capacity for loan repayment, and would benefit from additional feedback and support and refinement of their business plans. It is with that analysis that staff recommends that no investments be made in 2021 and that a new call be released to the market in 2022. Any questions relative to mission-related investment? Okay, so I'll go now into a few slides reviewing our responsive and leadership grant opportunities. You'll note on the slide that there were 12 responsive grant partners awarded in the third quarter. They are identified in bold on the slide. I'll share that 3 are emerging organizing initiatives led by people of color whom staff has cultivated relationship with and thought partnership with over the last year and a half. I'll note those organizations are St. Louis Mutual Aid, Evolve, and the Freedom Community Center. Next slide, please. A majority of the partners that were funded for Q3 fit into the justice and youth impact area. You'll see that a majority of the awards that were made fit within that space, and then secondly, family and economic mobility. Next slide. Accordingly, a majority of the grants that have been made align with the justice and equity for youth category. And it is worth noting that we'll continue to cultivate relationships with partners to increase areas relative to early childhood investments, as well as health going forward. Next slide. Lastly, we wanted to share about grants made through the annual leadership grants opportunity. You may recall that this is a closed process only open to former Deaconess impact partners to support their capacity to impact systems change on behalf of child well-being in the region. Partners can apply for up to $15,000 for up to 2 years. It's worth noting that we received 10 requests for 2021 and 8 partners were awarded. 2 of the partners that applied were notable by not being involved in partner learning opportunities, and the specifics of their requests did not really align with the framework for systems change on behalf of child well-being. Were either noted as direct programming or not identified as enhancing the capacity of the organization for systems change. Finally, I'll note that there is 1 remaining responsive grant cycle, which is currently under review, and that will close out grant opportunities for 2021. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Keisha, can you, for purposes of people who maybe are doing the math in their heads and looking at Matt's budget about the numbers that we were doing in grants, et cetera, versus what was shown on the chart. And so perhaps maybe talk about the multi-year funding that's available both in the responsive grant category, but then the largest being in the anchor institution category.
Great question, Cheryl. To reflect on anchor institutions, you may recall we committed to 4 years in supporting our 5 partners within the anchor institution cohort. Those partners include ACLU, Arch City Defenders, Missouri Healthcare for All, Community Organizing and Family Issues, and Metropolitan Congregations United. Those partners are entering their 4th and final year of the capacity building anchor institutions program. And so the budget that Matt shared reflects the remaining allocation for their capacity building budgets in their final year. Relative to responsive grants, responsive grant applicants are available to apply for up to $20,000 for up to 2 years. So in the mix of organizations that have been funded for 2021, several of those organizations may have been awarded requests for up to $40,000 total over the course of 2 years. So paying out the first half in 2021 and due for payment in 2022. We have noted that we've received an increased number of organizations in comparison to prior years as far as trends of numbers of applicants. And we've been working certainly to cultivate a broader pool of applicants for the responsive grant portfolio, but we're also trying to be thoughtful and mindful about how resources are allocated based on the amount of resources that are available.
Are there any other questions for Keisha?
This is Dale. I just wanted to express appreciation for the, I guess, due diligence that has been provided in evaluating the, I guess it's the previous round of grant applications, where you indicated that we had applications, but none of them were really quite up to the foundation's expectations. And so I just wanted to offer appreciation for staff involvement with that. Thank you.
And I guess the only follow on that I would have to that, Dale, is when we then notify those applicants that, you know, they didn't quite meet what we were looking for, you know, I mean, we've all been the recipient of a standard canned letter, you know, which isn't really that helpful. So I was just curious, what do we do when we are sharing that, you know, that news with them? You know, do we get specific about where we felt they missed the points, or, you know, just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, great question, Tammy. So our practice is always to follow up with any applicant that doesn't move forward within a process to offer feedback and insights on where they have areas for improvement within our specific process. But if there are other opportunities that might much better align with what they are seeking, making recommendations and insights and sharing with those partners other opportunities that may better align with the requests that they are making. So we plan to have very specific conversations with both partners that came through the mission-related investment process. This go round, we've had a number of conversations with each of those partners over the prior year, and we'll continue to cultivate the relationship, whether it be for a future submission in another call for mission-related investments, or if there are other opportunities that might be better suited for their requests.
Thank you. I should have assumed we did such a great job.
I just assumed Tammy, that you know, give her that softball question so she could show off a little bit about how good we are. And good we are. And I just want to say to both, to the last two reports, to both Keisha and Matt, you did an incredible job in 10 minutes of summing up, months and months of deep work and attention to detail and fiscal management and relationship building and partnering. I don't know what the equivalent of geek in your world would be, Keisha, but whatever it is, you hold that as highly as Matt does the financial geek mantle. So great appreciation. We have an incredible staff, and that is evidence in just the thorough and thoughtful ways that this work is presented. So thank you to you both and to all the staff once again. And so that takes us to our next item on the agenda. This is a joint meeting of the Deaconess Foundation Board of Directors and Board of Trustees and the Deaconess Center Board of Directors. And so I will welcome to give a report Dr. Sue Steepleton, who is the president of the Center Board. So welcome, Sue.
Thanks very much, Rudy. I'm trying to figure out what kind of geek I am.
I know, right?
It's an exclusive club, I know. Thanks. I add my welcome particularly to members of the community who are joining the boards. And I would just offer one word of explanation for those members of the community who are less familiar with the structure. The Deaconess Center is a part of the foundation, a creation of the foundation, but distinct from the foundation. The center board, or the center's purpose, is really to oversee, or the board of the center is to oversee certain aspects of the running of the building itself and the use of the building. And we sort of summarize our purpose as being the center being a place to engage, collaborate, and advocate. The board has consisted of 5 individuals, 3 of whom are officers, and it has been the tradition since the board was established that the president and CEO would be the corporate secretary of the board. So in our transition, our ongoing transition of leadership, Cheryl, who has been corporate secretary in this interim period, will be resigning from the board on November 9th. And it is our recommendation that Bethany take the role of corporate secretary of the board. So our terms, the officers of the Deaconess Center Board are annual terms, and recommendations for membership come from the board, the foundation board. So our nominating report is that, excuse me, I will continue as president of that board. Erica will continue as vice chair or vice president of the board, Erica Henderson as vice president of the board, and Bethany will become corporate secretary of the Deaconess Center Board. So that is a recommendation. I believe we need a motion from a foundation board member, Rudy, to accept that recommendation, unless there are questions or discussion.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Patrick, second.
A second.
Thanks, Caroline. Are there any questions or discussions? All right, then I will call the vote. All in favor of accepting this Deaconess Center nominating report as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, opposed or abstaining, same sign. All right, motion passed. Thank you, Sue.
Great, thank you. A second housekeeping matter that we need to take care of is with regard to authority to sign on behalf of the center board. And again, quite simply, we're replacing Cheryl with Bethany in that capacity as one of the signatories of the center board. And same process, Rudy.
Yes, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Beth, second.
This is Dale, I second.
Thank you, Dale. All right, any discussion or questions about that? Then I will call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Great. Pass. All right, Sue.
Thank you. Then our house is now in order in terms of the Deaconess Center. However, we also need a budget and are looking toward 2022. And we'll ask that Matt take us through the Deaconess Center budget as proposed.
Thank you, Sue. The Deaconess Center is in a little different position from the foundation, right? In that they don't have an investment portfolio to rely on or tap into or anything like that. The Deaconess Center has two sources of revenue. One is the lease. The Deaconess Foundation actually leases space from the Deaconess Center. The amount of that rent is set by a leasing agreement that was established at the time of the New Market Tax Credit financing closing. It is fixed on a 2% increase per year. And then the facility management shared services is the amount of money that our three co-locating partners, our Deaconess Foundation, Unleashing Potential, and Vision for Children at Risk, pay into the Deaconess Center every year for lack of better words, common area maintenance, right? For the fire alarms, the internet, the garbage, snow removal, and so forth. Total revenue is about $516,000. Then we get down into the expenses. So as the Deaconess Center is the recipient of New Market Tax Credits, there are finance and compliance expenses, as well as audits and accounting fees. There are operating expenses. Operating expenses include everything from utilities, insurance to telecommunications, internet, phone service, and so forth. Then we get into facility management expenses. And this is primarily what the shared services pay for. And this includes cleaning, maintenance, the alarm system, the landscaping, snow removal, and so forth. And then finally, we have the professional services, which is paying for the website, public relations efforts on behalf of Deaconess Center, but also a payment to the Deaconess Foundation for managing the center, right? The Deaconess Center has no employees. So the foundation takes responsibility for putting together events like the board meeting, board materials, but as well as paying the bills and so forth. That does leave a deficit of about $18,000. A couple things to that. One is when we built the Deaconess Center 4 years ago, we anticipated that there would be a deficit, and it was part of the New Market Tax Credit financing projections that there would be deficits for the last 3 years prior to the unwinding of the New Market Tax Credits in 2024. Second of all, the Deaconess Center has run surpluses each of its years of in existence prior to this year, totaling $182,000, plus an additional surplus that we're projecting this year. So that $18,000 deficit will tap into that surplus, if you will, that we've been running over the last number of years. In addition, there is no shortage of cash. The financial statements that were part of the consent agenda, you'll see that there's about $700,000 plus in cash in the checking account. So the center has plenty of money at this point to maintain its ongoing operations. Are there any questions?
Great.
Thank you very much. Oh, we have to act on this, don't we?
Yes,
Correct.
we do. Yes. So I will,
This is Reverend Patterson. I have one question. Has the center fully opened its doors yet? And what is the status of it?
I'm going to defer that question to David. Do you want to give an update, David, on the center status?
Yes, absolutely. So good morning, board. So in terms of status for the Deaconess Center, we do have our co-locators, our three co-locating organizations are able to return back to the Center for Business Operations. Each individual co-locator has developed their own return process and scope. And then for convenings, we have opened convenings to community partners and mission aligned work. And we continue to have convenings, both indoor and outdoor in our open air convening spaces at a limited capacity with COVID precautions, which include face coverings as a requirement. So that's our current status, and happy to review any of that with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Are there any other questions? Then may I have a motion to accept the center budget as presented?
I make a motion to accept the budget.
Thank you, Reverend Patterson. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. Any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed or abstaining, same sign. All right. So you have 3 unanimous
Great.
decisions on your action items. Thank you.
I prematurely said that our house was in order. Now our house is in order for the rest of this year and beginning into 2022. So we have the structure, the infrastructure, the skeleton of the work of the center. Now, it was a great segue. Reverend Patterson's question was a great segue to the report of, so what's going on in the center and with the center and what are the plans? And I'm happy to turn it over to David to continue reporting on the North Central Plan and other aspects of the operation of the center itself. So David, again.
Thank you. So again, good morning. Want to briefly give a update in terms of one of the center's largest programmatic activities for the year, engagement of our community around the North Central Plan. We have presented conversation about the center's about the North Central Plan previously to this body at times, but just want to cultivate it at that. Alexis, we can do next slide. So just to give grounding in terms of, in reference to the foundation's strategic plan that this body approved, one of the components around looking at the future of the franchise was how are we engaging our hands of this work of the enterprise, specifically leveraging the Deaconess Center for Child Wellbeing, its space, place, and network to help drive economic family mobility through community-led democratic development. With that, we saw the opportunity and responded to the call from our community members to really think about a community-led development plan and a rebirth of the North Central Plan, which was a development plan established early in 2000, but was never fully adopted. Next slide. If we were looking at, to give some additional grounding, looking at the content, the actual physical landscape of the plan's footprint, we adopted the plan, the previous 2000 plan that included at that time 5 neighborhoods. We reshaped it in coordination with the City of St. Louis Planning and Design Agency to include 2 neighborhoods completely, the Vandeventer neighborhood on the west, and then the Covenant Blue Grand Center neighborhood on the east, to include the entirety of and create North Central Plan. Next slide. In that, working with our resident-led community committees and steering committee and partnership with the United Church of Christ Church Building and Loan Fund, we were able to work through an RFP process that was able to establish a professional design team, a minority majority design team led by H3 Studios, Vector Communication, and Action St. Louis to develop a 12-month planning process through the phases which you see to talk through with stakeholders, community groups, residents, and have a feedback loop to really develop kind of the core vision, action plan, the draft action plan of what are the development goals, the intentions, and then also have final approval and acceptance by the City of St. Louis. Next slide, please. In this, our residents and our neighbors created a core vision statement and core values, specifically the vision statement as a whole, healthy and vibrant community comprised of distinct neighborhoods, housing and cultural, religious and educational amenities. North Central will be a well-maintained, safe and inclusive home for all residents, businesses and institutions. So these are the grounding vision statements that is going to lead this work in the next 20 years and beyond. Next slide. Additionally, through community feedback, town halls, both virtual and in person, all during a pandemic, the community was able to establish these 12 ensuring goals around culture, amenities, safety, and infrastructure in the neighborhoods, and be able to set the path for implementation moving forward. Next slide. As you see, we wanted to structure through the North Central Plan a solid foundation for planning, creating the core values, vision statements, goals, principles, and strategies, but then also give tools to have democratic implementation, thinking so that anyone could pick up in the community is encouraged to pick up the North Central Plan, to find the strategies that best speak to them in their work or in their area, and have the ability to make those priorities, make action plans, and find supportive partners in the community. Next slide. With this, we were very excited that on August 18th this year, the City of St. Louis Planning Commission held a public hearing on the plan and gave full approval to establish the North Central Plan as a official topical plan for these two neighborhoods, for the Vandeventer and Covenant Blue Grand Center neighborhood. That will be that development plans and engagement will have to be reactive to in the future in this footprint. Next slide. In that, kind of seeing for the work and how this, in terms of our ability to leverage the center, we've seen this success as identifying the center and the foundation as a stakeholder in the community that we're very excited to continue to stay in the community, build place, build network with our residents and stakeholders to really help drive our core values and vision around family economic mobility and community-led democratic development. Noting our challenges that we continue to see, how do we move these values, but also continue to strengthen and pay attention to the health and safety of our community. Noting again that this planning process was done during a health pandemic, and wanted to, and that we saw challenges, but growth in terms of deeper relationships, strong allyship through this work. And lastly, wanting to note our growth opportunities that we are looking forward to in 2022 and beyond is really thinking about how are we implementing action steps of the North Central Plan, how are we encouraging other community members, other stakeholders to take on action steps and implementation steps, and really seeing this work come to fruition and show up in the real world in this work. So very excited about the North Central Plan, where we've landed, and the new opportunities that it provides us. Entertaining any questions with that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. If there are no questions or comments, before going back on mute myself, I would just like to say that while the center doesn't employ staff, the work that both Matt and David do, and all the staff, but those two particularly, to shepherd the finances, the logistics of operations, the legalities of the new market tax credits, all of those things are just exemplary, and So my thanks on behalf of the board and community. I would also just note or just emphasize what David has lifted up around the North Central plan to say how much activity has gone on during this period when mostly the doors had to be locked. And the things that don't show are the capacity that the Deaconess has afforded to the nonprofit community throughout to continue to do these things and engage, collaborate and advocate, even under adverse circumstances through technical capacity and so forth, has been just exemplary. So I thank them and all the rest of the staff and everyone involved in all of these endeavors. So thank you, Rudy. I think that concludes my report.
Rudy and Sue, if I might make a comment about that as well.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. So Sue, is really kind of echoing and underscoring what you said in terms of David's presentation was great, but one of the things I want to make you all aware of or remind you of is the fact that of that condensed timetable, number one, is my understanding that that's one of the, in terms of getting from start place to finish being it approved by the city, was really the result of a lot of hard work for the partners, for David, for the co-chairs of the North Central Plan and all the North Central Plan members. And so it's really, I want to recognize that and recognize their hard work and recognize their shift on a dime in the sense of when they were searching for consultants and things like that, the pandemic had not happened upon us. And so the shift of how they work together to make this work come, I really want to just lift up everybody that was involved, the steering committee, David and his leadership, because it really wouldn't have happened but for that. And David's leadership around that is amazing. But I also wanted to take the opportunity to say that the leadership of the other team members at Deaconess is likewise amazing, even though we didn't have all of them on the agenda today. But I just wanted to share that and to share that my experience in working with each of them and their talents and their willingness to roll up their sleeves and to do every task to get the job done has been inspirational to me as a human. And I just wanted to let everyone know, the board and the people in community with us in the webinar, how much each of them individually are appreciated and respected, and how all of them give it their absolute all to make Deaconess what it is to the region. So sorry to take the mic, but I felt compelled to share my thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Cheryl. Rudy?
Yes, thank you, Sue. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Cheryl. All of those pieces help to highlight what we all know, that the center will be one of the legacies of the Deaconess Foundation, whose impact is just being felt, but will continue for the next 100 years of when we write the next report of the last 100 years of the Deaconess Foundation's impact on the society. So I'm really excited. Thank you, Sue, for stepping up and leading the board. But what Cheryl said about David, and then about all the staff of the Deaconess Foundation. I want to also +1 everything that she said. So y'all know I did try to put Cheryl on the agenda today, and she wouldn't have it. She didn't want to talk today. She wanted to ease on out the back door, but I knew she wouldn't make it to the end of the day without chiming in something. So just always saying, we didn't try to exclude her from having final comments as the interim CEO. So thank you, Cheryl, for making me right and knowing that you would come in and say those incredible, wonderful things that you say. As you have led this staff over the last year, I hope you count yourself among the incredible staff that has made this work go so well, and continue to. Your thumbprints are all over it. So much appreciation. And that brings us to the last thing on our agenda is the welcome from our new President and CEO, Bethany Johnson-Javois. As you all know, we entered into a national search for a new CEO last January, I believe is when we launched the official search, or December actually, when we launched the official search. And I'm very, very pleased that we came up with the right and best outcome. This is not this is great. The fact that she was already down the street, around the corner, and in our house is only matters to the fact that well, it does matter. She knows us well. We know her well. But also, she was a competitor for this process. I just want y'all to know this wasn't like go find your best friend and give her the job. Like, she had to show up every step of the way in the brilliant way that she did. She earned the right to have this seat, and in a field of good options and good competitors. So I'm so excited that this is the outcome that we unanimously came up with as a board. Bethany assumed her position on October 18th, or she stepped into the role officially October 18th, and from what I can tell, has hit the ground running, and I'm welcome you, Bethany, into this role. Can't wait to follow your lead wherever you want us to go. You have a willing and excited board and a willing and excited staff, and so I turn the mic over to you.
Well, thank you so much to the one of a kind Rudy Nickens, and to all of you who are with us here on Zoom, who are with us on Facebook, who will be with this recording in the future. Just grateful for this opportunity to bring remarks to our community today. So I start with saying greetings, holy greetings to each of you. I come to you today as a first-generation college student, social worker, caregiver, shepherdess evangelist, nonprofit leader, and advocate for health justice. And now it's truly an honor filled with privilege to come to you in the role of Deaconess's new president and CEO. I'm still not used to those words, so I'm gonna have to say it one more time. The new role of Deaconess's new president and CEO, and to be graced with the opportunity to serve not only today's children, but tomorrow's children in Southern Illinois and Missouri. To the Deaconess Foundation Board of Trustees, Deaconess Center Board of Trustees, staff, partners, and Metropolitan St. Louis community, thank you. Deeply, thank you for selecting me and trusting me to lead in this Kairos season that will have an abundance of defining moments. To the leaders of the United Church of Christ, thank you for entrusting me to the sacred task of discerning the move of the Holy Spirit together with you. I am profoundly aware that Deaconess is an organization and a ministry that we all care deeply about, embodying the true meaning of equity before the word was even in our lexicon from 1889 to today. Then German immigrants, tended to by Deaconess women. Now, overwhelmingly Black children cared for by community, people, organizations, and this mission. To Cheryl Walker, words cannot capture the description of your power, your leadership, your discernment, and the fullness of the giftings you brought as interim president and CEO, and bring to me as my sister, mentor, colleague. And to the staff of Deaconess Foundation, Alexis, Constance, Keisha, David, Matt, and Michael. As individuals, you are forces of nature. And as a collective team, we lack nothing. We abound in everything to move this mission forward. Thank you for welcoming me and for plugging me straight into the power source of this work. St. Louis is my bloodline. I have been firmly rooted here since my family settled in the oldest Black community to be incorporated in the state of Missouri, a very special place called Kinloch, Missouri. In my experience growing up here as a little Black girl with my education choices, heavily influenced by the desegregation settlement agreement during the 80s and early 90s, feeling accepted in family and church circles, while at the same time being made to feel like an outcast in almost every other setting, makes me all too familiar with the region's segregated and fragmented history that has inflicted community-level trauma and perpetuated racial inequity. But despite all that, I possess an unflinching hope and an unshakable faith that looks beyond what I see and calls into being the just society we fight for, that happens through system transformation designed by the people, for the people. I want you to know and understand about me that I believe in people power. Do you believe in serendipity? In 1996, in the chapel of Deaconess Hospital, a desperate plea in a tear-filled prayer by a daughter crying out for a move of the Spirit to save my father's life was answered. This, coupled with my belief in Deaconess's faith-rooted mission to improve the health of the St. Louis community and its people, is what drew me to the foundation to serve then as trustee a decade ago, and now to lead in a servant's posture over the Deaconess enterprise. I guess one could call it serendipity, but it sure feels like divine order to me. My purpose is rooted in John 6:39 and Isaiah 58, to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work, to repair breaches of injustice and to inspire excellence, fierceness, and hope. This purpose reflects the same spiritual and moral imperative that guides Deaconess: to combat structural racism and to mobilize people, policy, and power for the health and well-being of endangered children in the context of their communities, neighborhoods, and systems that influence their ability to self-determine their bright and blessed futures. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to rock the world and will have reverberating effects that will impact us all for decades at spiritual, economic, political, and environmental levels. It is for this reason that the bringing together of community health and public health practice with community organizers, anchor and responsive investments, and the faith community is all hands on deck essential to shift from a crisis orientation to a proactive, futurist orientation that will accelerate the realizing of the just society we aspire to build together. My leadership and what anchors our future is found in our values, the values of justice, hope, service, identity, and faithfulness. It is also the foundation for my approach to position Deaconess to address current and future challenges, whatever life may bring. On screen, you're seeing a slide positioning Deaconess to realize our vision for child's health and well-being. This was adapted from Grant Makers for Effective Organizations Supporting Movements framework. It is my approach to realize a just future for kids in our lifetime, or even better, by 2039. As institutional anchor advocate, investor, broker, translator, facilitator, healer, connector, and learner. I just want to share a few sentences on each so you have a sense of how my vision will play out with you. As institutional anchor advocate with 130 years in mission and counting, aligning with the visionary leadership of Reverend Starsky Wilson, we will continue to transform from a grant-making foundation that advocates to an institutional advocate that makes grants. And we will continue to provide expertise support beyond grant making that holds accountability for ourselves first, our partners in philanthropy, and systems, all while elevating community voice, vision, and power. As investor, I am committed to stewardship over the corpus and partnership with other investors who share our values and our vision to attract new investment dollars for the purpose of sustaining the work generationally. Being an investor also means investing in growing and supporting community leadership pipeline that retains the talent and expertise of young leaders in community with our elders to sustain the change we see. As broker, translator, facilitator, we will dismantle white supremacy culture to allow for the inclusive, beloved community that God intends, found in deep relationship, community rootedness, and connectedness, and something bigger than ourselves, abiding love, the quest for justice, and the realization of justice. From transactional to relational, valuing lived experience and expertise co-equal with degrees and title. Both sides of the fence must come together to a shared table if we're ever going to overcome this chronic stagnation we've called progress in this part of the Midwest. As healer, and this is my favorite, I love the healer space. As healer, Deaconess will hold space for traditional partners like healthcare providers and faith communities inclusive of Black church traditions like my own, the Church of God in Christ, to infuse joy and spirit and healing arts to this work. And more non-traditional but culturally congruent partners like community health workers and others who center healing to address the level of grief and loss our community is reeling from now and for a generation to come. Please join us. We invite you to join us because we've got work to do. As connector, Deaconess, especially through the community asset of the Deaconess Center, will host and convene with the intent to foster and build trusting relationships that cross traditional barriers by sector, by generations, intersectional identities, geographic footprint, and spiritual practices, all for the purpose of the improved health of the community and its people, which is our mission. As learners, together with you, we will root new understanding and awakenings in taking action, learning from our successes and making it right from our inevitable failed tries. There's a lot I've learned, and I'll admit to you, there's quite a bit that hasn't been revealed to me yet. So thank you in advance for sharpening me, and I invite you to sharpen me. Evaluating impact together with other partners to know if life has gotten better or worse as perceived and lived by our young people through the lens of racial equity will remain our commitment. So I leave you with an ask and my personal commitment back to you in this exchange. Here's my ask. In fact, it's two things. Number one, give us the grace to do what my mentor, Sister Mary Antona Ebo, and Reverend Richard Ellebrecht captured for me when he said, quote, "In all, be open to the Spirit and go do as the Spirit leads." And number two, every one of us is called to be a healer, a policy influencer, and a history maker. Your leadership, no matter who you are or where you sit in the circle of life, is vital in this moment. All that you've been through and the strength found in you has been preserved for such a time as this to help finish the work that has remained unfinished on our watch. The ask: don't live life as a question mark. Live life as an exclamation point. Be the healer, the policy influencer, and history maker you are called to be. And in exchange, if you'll give me my ask, here are my three commitments. Number one, we will seek the wisdom of the community, but we will not exploit it. Number two, Deaconess will work in partnership and in covenant relationship where the will of the Spirit and the will of the people meet. And number 3, my commitment to you. I will listen with new ears and an open heart. No voice is too small and no vision is too audacious to influence our work. So connect with us. On screen, we are showing you all the ways that you can come and be part of this family, be part of this movement, be part of this work, and the people who drive the mission of the Deaconess Enterprise. And as I close on this final note, I want to offer this reflection. In the past, accountability seems to have meant pointing a finger at others to do the change, or someone else is called to make the change happen. But a wise woman once told me, and so I share with you, do not ask the Creator to guide your steps if you're not willing to move your feet. I am Bethany Johnson Javois. Last name is pronounced Javois. And it is so nice to meet you again for the first time. Now let's get to work and do what must be done in service to the mission. Amen. Peace be with you.
Also with you, my beloved sister. If we were on stage somewhere, there would be a mic that just fell to the ground, that you just have to release from your hand, when the mic dropping moments. But Bethany, thank you for those visionary, inspiring, wonderful words, and all the more reason that we are excited about you being in this role. So happy, and I look forward to answering the ask, and I commit to that to do everything I can to answer that ask and to guide us where we can in that journey together with you. Nice to meet you again for the first time. So I believe this brings us to a closing. So may I ask for a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to leave, huh?
So moved.
Second.
Move second. All in favor of putting a pause on this day, moving forward?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, go in peace, go in service. Thank you all for everything you do. We will have our next meeting, I believe, in January, if I believe it's correct. We'll get notes to the board, but thank you all, and to our guests, all of our guests who are joined us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about the mission, for supporting the mission, for working on behalf of the mission in partnership with us. And we are just delighted to have this time together. So I close this with great appreciation for our new CEO and great appreciation for our exiting interim CEO, and what a handoff this is today. So be well, be safe, have great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you soon.